Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video I have a pair of Tier 7 Soviet light cruiser Shchors replays for you. The first one my buddy Puddin 597 is going to be playing in his, and the second one is going to be a game that I had in mine. So this is going to be the second double tap video that we've had. The first one was on the Moskva. The link to that video is provided right now on your screen. And the reason why that I wanted to get this double tap game, these two games out here for this ship, is because there will be an upcoming review on the Shchors as of patch 0.5.9, 0.5.10-ish. Anyway, the Shchors is a ship that a lot of people don't like whatsoever. The Bejonia Tier 6 is an extremely powerful ship. It takes the best of ships like the Cleveland and the Nuremberg and pretty much puts it into one complete package. It has great armor, it has those fast-firing 152mm guns, and it has pretty good concealment, pretty decent maneuverability. And overall, it's a ship that is extremely powerful and is a staple of clan wars and ranked gameplay. The Shchors, however, at Tier 7, kind of takes a back seat to it in a lot of ways. You do get that extra turret in the rear, so you get 12 instead of 9 of these fast-firing guns, but you pretty much trade every other statistical category to get that turret. You lose armor, you lose maneuverability, you don't really get anything in terms of concealment. The AA is still poor, the torpedoes are pretty useless. The Shchors is just one of those Tier 7s, and there's a lot of Tier 7s out there that get plenty of scorn, and the Shchors is definitely one of them. You still want to play at the back and utilize these long-range guns and shooting out to extreme distances, using the spotter aircraft to further excavate the range to pretty much insane levels for a cruiser, and just set fires on enemy battleships and shoot at cruisers and destroyers when the opportunity arises. Now you're going to see two different playstyles here with the Shchors, but when I say two different playstyles, I guess I should say that they're just slightly tweaked. Puddin is definitely the more aggressive player in the clan, and he enjoys getting stuck in and doing his damage as close as he can to ensure that more of the shells hit the target. However, with the Shchors, like I said, you really just don't want to get close with this thing. It is best when it is sitting at far ranges. Think of it like the Mogami for all the closed beta testers back in the day, when those 155mm you could shoot from a very long distance completely undetected. So right here, Puddin is playing on the map Neighbors, and he's deciding to head up to the northeastern side of the map relative to our spawn, and he's going to engage whatever goes up there. We have a Mahan, a Minakazi, and Alba coming over here as well. There's a cruiser behind him. And those destroyers are going to be screening for any enemy vessels that come into the cluster of islands over there on the right side. So he's taking a look for his first shot. He's got an enemy Minakazi lined up on the target detector, but he decides to not take the shot. Minakazi pops back up again really fast, but unfortunately for Puddin, the smoke cloud obscures any shot that he may or may not have had. Enemy Miyoko coming in here as well. Another thing that I forgot to mention about the Shchors is that you do get defensive fire, defensive AA fire on this ship. So even though the anti-aircraft is pretty paltry, the rating certainly isn't the best. You can kind of make up for it, similar to mid-tier Japanese cruisers, by having defensive AA that at least cause the spread on the torpedo and dive bomber attack to be rather a mook. His shells are falling in on the Pensacola. He manages 6 solid hits for just over 4,000 damage, 4,300 to be exact. It's a pretty good first salvo on the Pensacola. So as we're taking a look at the mini-map here, there's a decent bit of the enemy team is heading up here into the islands. The friendly destroyers have scouted out all the way to the D line as Puddin is just entering it, and so far the only shots that he's really had was on the enemy Pensacola, but it's about to get a bit more crazy here. Enemy Pensacola is behind the island. He's looking for a shot on him. Still hasn't made up his mind yet. And at this point, Pensacola 13.1 kilometers away. Is this a good engagement distance for a ship like the Shchors? Well, he's doing the right thing here, and he's turning away from the Pensacola just in case. The Pensacola unfortunately slowed down for him, and his entire salvo missed ahead of him, but his second one is good. So, do you want to be engaging targets at 13 kilometers in this thing? I mean, I personally don't like to get even this close in this thing, considering you do have excellent shell arc. and shell velocity on these guns. They go at 950 meters a second coming out of the barrel. So you can engage targets at long range relatively easily. He is angled against the Pensacola, and he takes only a few hits from them, but they do negligible damage. The ship has 75 millimeters of 75 millimeters, I don't remember which one, something around there, of Citadel armor. Angled slightly, 10 to 15 degrees, it's not bad, but it doesn't really do you very good. Now, unfortunately, while Puddin was focusing on the enemy Pensacola, enemy torpedoes are coming in, and as he slows down to turn into those torpedoes with that horrific turning radius, one of the torpedoes is going to impact the Kirov, because by him turning into him, it slowed his ship down. And later, dude. He inadvertently helped the enemy destroyer get the kill, as Monty is a bit less than amused in the chat. But due to Puddin being such a nice guy, sorry. Oh man, Puddin, a funny guy. So, after that little debacle, he's going to be he's on the 10 line heading to the north, and he's going to be hunting down the enemy destroyer that's up there. He does have a friendly cruiser that's 6.1 kilometers off to his port side, just slightly abeam of him, McNinja, and he's going to be hunting him down with the help of the Ioba. And all the friendly destroyers are also heading up to the north as well. They smell blood in the water, and it's only a matter of time until that enemy destroyer gets completely boxed in, spotted, and taken care of. And there he is, 11 kilometers away. He gets detected very briefly. It's the enemy Hachaharu. So Puddin is now moving into a position where he can surprise the Hachaharu as soon as he gets spotted coming around the island here. And there he is, yet again, 10.8 kilometers away, and he is heading right up next to the map border. Excuse me. Enemy torpedoes are on the way at the friendly Alba, but appears that McNinja is able to dodge all of the torpedoes that came his way. Excellent maneuverability on the Alba, that is indeed. Gets his forward turrets going, and he's swinging his rear turrets into play on the Hachaharu. Shells are falling in on the target. He manages one hit for 726 damage. Now, the thing about the Shchors is that it really is a good destroyer killer, because if a destroyer does get too close to you, the rate of fire combined with the railgun-like shell velocity on this thing makes it extremely good at hitting targets on the move. As you can see here, the Hachaharu is moving at a pretty decent pace, and Puddin is not having much trouble landing at least a couple shells on target. 2 more hits for 1,400 damage done. And he's just continuing to shoot whenever he can. 2 more hits, another 1,000 so damage done. Now Hachaharu, it's only a matter of time until he's taken care of. Now, if I were him right now, I would have probably already tried to swing my rear turrets into play, get that Hachaharu out of the game faster. He does manage to set him on fire again. He does take a hit from a ship, and he gets set on fire himself. He uses damage control. The Hachaharu is on 1,257 health. Shells are in on the way, and he takes care of the Hachaharu. That's his first kill of the game. Just under 20,000 damage done, 34 shell hits, and 3 fires set. Now he's looking for a shot here on the enemy New York. Now, another thing about the Shchors is it doesn't matter what battleships are on the enemy team. It doesn't matter if it's an Iowa all the way at Tier 9 or something as, quote, petty or useless as a New York is sometimes in a Tier 7 game. All battleships are an immense danger to this ship simply because of the armor. This thing feels very Pensacola-ish, and I'd be tempted to say that it's even worse than the Pensacola when it comes to being squishy. And that's not a very dubious honor to have, but the Shchors is certainly a ship that it's just like that. It's just, oh man, you give a broadside in this thing, and you better expect you're going to take some citadels. Enemy Minakaze comes flying around the island at 6 kilometers away. Puddin lands a nice salvo. All 6 shells impact the target. Takes about half of his remaining health off. Shoots his 4 guns in again. Manages to do 1 more hit. He's looking for the kill shot on the enemy Minakaze, and he makes a smart play, and he turns back away from the enemy smoke cloud, because we all know how dangerous those smoke clouds are. Now he's looking for some long-range shots on the Mayhan, and you're going to see here the Shchors being able to do something that other cruisers just simply cannot. 12.4 kilometers away. It's a very hard hit, a very hard shot for a lot of the other cruisers in the game on enemy destroyers that are moving away like that, and he manages to get 7 hits for over 4,000 damage, and his second salvo falls just short. But you saw there, he was able to get into a very good position where the Mayhem wasn't paying attention to him and landed a very solid salvo on him. And that's something that the Bajoni, the Shchors, and certainly the Chapayev at Tier 8 can do very well. Longer range destroyer shots are certainly something that this ship is good at. So right now the score is 468 to 383. The enemy team has lost 4 ships, and the friendly team has lost 3. He gets undetected as he comes back around the island. He's looking for more shots on the enemy Mayhan. He's at 13.7 kilometers away, and he is moving away from Puddin at the moment. His shells are flying in on the target. Will he end up getting a hit? No, yes, he does. 1 hit. 1 shell hit for 700 and some damage. Now he's looking for another shot here on the enemy Minakaze, 9.5 kilometers away. At this kind of range, it's, yeah, pretty cut and dry. He's going to get the kill. 3 shells impact, 977 damage. That is his second ship, second destroyer, taken out of the game. He's up to 33,520 damage off of 59 shell hits and 5 fires. So, good stuff here for Puddin, showing how when the Shchors is a little bit more aggressive than something that I would use it as, he's able to make those enemy destroyers pay. Now he's looking for shots at the New York to try and help out his buddy in the Minakaze over there that's just getting hunted down by both the New York and the enemy Nuremberg. He gets 3 of his turrets going. Now, another little peculiarity about the Shchors is that the broadside angle for 3 of the 4 turrets is actually really good, but to get that 4th turret into play, you really have to swing the butt of the ship around to a point where, even against cruiser caliber shells, you're not going to be able to really tank any of the damage. You're not going to really be able to get yourself free of citadels, free of high rolling shell hits when you're at this kind of an angle right here. Compared to where he's looking at the New York, he's probably at like a 40-45 degree angle, and yeah, battleship caliber guns, forget about it. Cruisers, specifically American ones that have higher pen, they're going to go right through it. So he keeps getting more shells off at the enemy New York. Gets 1,452 damage off of 6 of 12 shell hits. And right now he's just, he's at, I'd say, medium distance for a Soviet cruiser. Ships that are between 10 and 15 kilometers are certainly at that sort of range. He gets armor-piercing salvo at the Miyoko. He only hits 2 shells for 545 damage. However, the Miyoko is not paying attention to him. He flattens out completely broadside to Puddin. Shells flying in. Manages 3 more hits. 3rd enemy ship destroyed in the game. And he's up to 48,000 damage. Luckily for him, the enemy shells land just short of him on the starboard side. And now he is doing what you should be doing in your Soviet cruisers. Backing away, kiting away from the enemy while shooting whatever ammunition of opportunity that you can. In this case, the Nuremberg is presenting him a pretty decent side. And even at 13 kilometers, Soviet armor piercing in these 152s is not bad whatsoever. He continues to turn, and now there's a Bajoni off to his starboard side. He's got the New York behind him, so he's just trying to get himself into a better position. He manages to get Confederate up to 57,000 damage now, just cracked 100 shell hits. 8 fires set. Looking for more shots. This time he swings his turrets into play against the New York. And to be honest with you, he's very lucky that that New York is shooting high explosive at him. The New York salvo falls well behind him. But if he was shooting armor-piercing, yeah, just one of those shells is enough to ruin your day. The enemy Bajoni is starting to turn in towards him. He has high explosive loaded, 11.3 kilometers away, starting to get near the short-range engagement for Soviet cruisers with these guns. Continues to fire at him. He sets 1 fire, 5 shell hits, 2 target hits that fail to penetrate. His next salvo only hits 1. And at this point, the Bajoni has already used his damage control, so he's looking to try to set him on fire again and get his health to melt away. And he manages to get 2 fires as the Bajoni completely misses with his salvo, but he does get his second one off. Enemy dive bombers are coming in on Puddin's position. He uses his defensive fire AA. He's able to shoot 1 plane down. The bombers are able to get 2 more fires on him, but he had his excuse me. He's able to use his damage control party to get the fires out. And now he's looking for more shots here on the New York as he continues to sail away. And right here, this is just Soviet cruiser textbook play right here. Just getting out of a bad spot where you're getting shot at by multiple enemy ships. That Bajoni is still ferociously burning from the double fire that he set on him. 1 at the bow and 1 near the stern funnel. Gets more shots out on the Bajoni. Shells are flying in on the target. He has 3,875 health, and he continues to bleed his hit points. Manages to set yet another fire on the stern of the Bajoni. And you can see here the amount of fires that you can set in the ship. I highly suggest running Demolition Expert on your Soviet cruisers. 12 fires out of 124 shell hits is pretty good nonetheless, and quite a few of those shells that have hit have been armor-piercing. He's up to 72,682 damage done. And his team has a very comfortable lead. There's only 4 enemy ships left, and one of them is the carrier, who is pretty much putting himself all the way at the back of the map into the enemy spawn. More shells flying in on the New York. He gets hit by 2 torpedoes, and he's able to do MLG Pro clutch steal kill. Gets his 4th kill of the game, up to 74,000 damage. Awesome stuff here. And he's 1 away from a Kraken. The enemy Fuso is moving in on his friendly base. However, he is under the fire from 3 of Puddin's friendlies, so he decides, I'm going to continue to push the enemy base. The scores are now 648 to 313, 531 left in the game. And he's looking now for a good shot on the enemy Bajoni. Swings his forward guns into play, shoots them. Fortunately for him, the Bajoni turns just ever so slightly. But again, the rate of fire on this thing, you can afford to miss a lot of shells in this ship because you just have that glorious rate of fire to compensate for it. Shells flying in on the target. The Bajoni is 13.2 kilometers away and closing the distance somewhat. Manages to get a nice salvo in. 4 shells hit. His 5th ship destroyed in the game. Gets the Kraken unleashed. What a game so far for Puddin. He's been a bit more aggressive than you might think in this Soviet cruiser. However, he's been able to put himself in a very good position most of the time at the enemy ships that he's been shooting at for the whole game. He's only lost half of his health, roughly, throughout the course of the battle. And he's just showed you how at medium distances the Shchors can still be okay, as long as you're not putting yourself into a position where you're getting fired at from multiple sides. And the one time that he was sandwiched in between the New York, the Nuremberg, and the Bajoni, he moved away from the combat area as fast and effectively as he could. So, pretty good Shchors gameplay right here. Again, this is certainly a ship that a lot of people just don't like whatsoever. And, yes, I'll admit, I just grinded through this thing as fast as I could. The Chapayev offers much more potential and much more flexibility. But overall, I didn't have that bad of a time in the Shchors. And Puddin here, again, surely showed how you can be very effective in this thing. The enemy Fuso has been taken care of at the friendly cap, and the only ship that's left is the enemy carrier. So Puddin is making his way towards the enemy cap. We know where he's at. Gets spotted. Independence 12.6 kilometers away. Enemy torpedo bombers are coming in on his starboard side, but he does have his defensive fire AA back, so he shouldn't have to worry about it too much. And he gets his guns firing in anger on the Independence. And the high explosive damage that you do against enemy carriers in this thing, it adds up exceptionally fast in a ship that has this glorious rate of fire. And he indeed deploys his defensive fire AA as the enemy torpedo planes are coming in on his position. He has shot down 4 planes during the game thus far. But even against a Tier 6 carrier, it's going to take a while for you to be able to take care of it. He sets his second fire on the enemy Independence, and now he's turning away from the torpedo planes to get even more time between when they're able to drop and whenever the torpedoes may or may not hit his ship. He's able to shoot down yet another plane. He's up to 7, make that 8, make that 9. Torpedo bomber squadron taken care of, sets another fire on the Independence. He has 10,000 hit points left. Puddin looking for the kill shot. Only manages to do 3,600, snags the high caliber at the end of the game here, and the Independence gets hit by torpedoes, and Puddin ends up with a fantastic game in the Shchors. Alrighty guys, we're going to go right into our next bit of gameplay. We're going to take a look at the post-battle results after this one. This is a game that I had in the Tier 7 Soviet light cruiser, the Shchors, divisioned up with my buddy Puddin597. He is in his Tier 7 American light cruiser, the Atlanta, and we're playing some domination here on the map Trident. So, what is going to be different about this game? Well, I'm going to do a bit more damage, going to kill an extra ship, it's going to end in defeat, but probably, and most importantly, you're going to get a very good idea of how to utilize the scout plane on this ship, and also you're going to get an idea of the armor-piercing capabilities that this ship possesses. Puddin certainly had a great game in his Shchors in the one that you just watched. However, this one is going to take it probably to the zenith of what this ship is capable of, at least in terms of it being able to deal damage and influence the outcome of the battle. So right here at the beginning of the game, we decide, or at least I decide, I'm going to head over to Charlie. And now here's a little sneak preview into a tactic that I'm going to mention more of in my Shchors review. What I like to do at the beginning of the game is go on a very shallow angle towards the enemy base, and whenever an enemy battleship gets spotted, immediately get the spotting plane up and start shooting it at very long range. At least on some of the American battleships that you meet at mid-tiers, you actually outrange them when you get the spotting plane up. and it allows you to rain high explosive fire from very long range, and forces them to use their damage control, forces them to go to a different part of the map. Unfortunately, you won't see that in this game, but what you're looking at on screen right now, the kind of angle that I'm at towards the enemy base, that is very shallow, slowly moving towards it, going at about half speed. And you'll get a good idea of how that works in the review. So now the first enemy ship gets spotted, the enemy Molotov, and he's going to show you how not to play Soviet cruisers. He's going to go flying in towards Objective Charlie, and his buddy in the York is going to be backing him up as well. So I'm looking for my first broadside on the enemy Molotov, and I do so. Now, the shooting here with the Molotov is actually going to be, it's going to be pretty bad here. One thing that Soviet cruisers are very good at is their speed. They move at a very high rate, and can be somewhat difficult to land these kinds of shots where they're slowly coming in towards you, but they're not at a kind of angle where it's exceptionally easy to determine where you need to aim. My second salvo hits him for 3 more shells. We're up to just under 1,500 points of damage off the first 2 salvos, and yet another salvo with 726 damage done. More high explosive going in on the Molotov, and I'm just short. And very uncharacteristic shooting here for me at the beginning of the game. Switch to armor piercing, however, and things are going to take a different turn. The Molotov is now at 11.2 kilometers away. My shells are falling in on the target. I aim just a bit high. Still end up with about 3,000 points of damage done. My second broadside is out before you know it. Shells falling in on the target. There we go. Get one to go right underneath the gun. Just over 5,000 damage done. And he shoots his first salvo back at me. Armor piercing. I start to turn away from him slightly. I land yet another good salvo. About 8,000 points of damage done. Looking for the kill shot here, however, I aim just a bit in front of him. He slows down ever so slightly. Still get 2,700 points of damage. Get my last broadside out. Hopefully that'll be able to kill him. I do take a monster hit back in return, about 8,000, but I land 3 more citadels on him and take out my first ship of the game. And I start taking some shots here at the York. So I lost about 1/3 of my hit points, but in return, I'm able to take out that Tier 6 premium Soviet light cruiser. And I decide to switch my fire to the enemy Nicholas, shoot my forward guns, and switch back to high explosive. 28,000 points of damage done, 34 shell hits, 5 citadels. Now I'm looking for some high explosive at the enemy York. Get a nice broadside out. He turns to his starboard side just so slightly. Only takes a few hits for 363 damage. And I'm going to continue to switch between these ammunition choices, depending on what angle he's giving me. Get a decent broadside out with the high explosive, set him on fire, doesn't do any damage. He repairs it. I shoot armor piercing at him. He turns under it just enough. Only do 2,100. Switch back to high explosive, and you see here how easy it is to switch between ammunitions on this ship. Another broadside out of high explosive, at least 3 of the turrets, and you saw there that the broadside angle for 3 of the 4 turrets anyway is actually pretty good. It mitigates a lot of the poor armor that this thing has. Unfortunately, the York goes inside the smoke. However, as he shoots at the friendly Congo, he appears only 9 kilometers away from me. Get my armor-piercing salvo out. See if I'm going to be able to make him pay. There we go. 2 citadels, 8,700 damage done. And I get another broadside out of the forward guns. There we go. Another citadel, 5,300 damage done. Second ship destroyed in the game. Now I'm swinging all my turrets over on the Nicholas, and I forget to load high explosive here, but I decide to keep shooting, and that's pretty decent damage. 2,200 damage done with the armor piercing. The friendly Congo shoots just in front of him. I get another broadside out. Shells falling in. There we go. Third ship destroyed in the game. 51,000 points of damage done. 3 ships destroyed. 73 shell hits. 8 citadels and 1 fire set. So far, very good. Medium range, again, not this thing's specialty, but if a ship will let you shoot at it and not retaliate with this kind of rate of fire, you can do some monster damage. Now I'm looking for shots at the enemy Minakazi. I'm heading over towards Objective Bravo. An enemy Atlanta did appear on the map about 10-15 seconds ago, moving in towards Objective Bravo, so we should be able to get some shots on him rather soon. And as the Minakazi goes into smoke, the Atlanta makes his appearance. He's 14.8 kilometers away, and I swing my guns into position. And at this range, it only takes 8.2 seconds to get there. That's awesome. That's why these guns are so lethal, because you can just you know, it doesn't matter what the range is. You can just land a lot of shells on target. Unfortunately for that salvo, I shot just a bit above him, but the second one lands 6 out of 12 for 4,300 damage. Shoot a high explosive at him again, readying the AP. We're going to take a little cinematic view here. Hopefully we can get the coup de grace. Shells look beautiful. Flying in on the Atlanta. He can't get out of the way in time. A Sadud. 2 citadels. Atlanta taken care of. 4th ship destroyed in the game, up to 65,000 damage. And now right here, you're going to see just what this spotting aircraft is capable of. That New York is on full health, mind you. He's at 16.7 kilometers away. Trying to find the range usually takes 2 or 3 salvos before you figure it out. 1 shell hit, 726 damage done. But now I have found the range. And this New York is going to pay. I set him on fire, 2,400 points of damage. And this rate of fire is going to eat him alive. First salvo falls in, 2,900 damage. And you're seeing here, you can get another salvo out before the first one that you shot even gets there. Feels very Cleveland-esque. Another fire set, over 2,000 damage done. He's now burning in 2 locations. More shells out. He uses his damage control. And it's going to last for 20 seconds. 3,300 damage done. Very nice amount of high explosive damage caused there. The last salvo falls just behind him. Got to readjust my aim slightly. Get more shells out. By now, his damage control is going to be out. I set 1 fire on the superstructure. Looking for more shots. He's at 30,000 hit points. I've done the majority of the damage to him. 2,100 points, 700 points, so about 2,800 points taken care of in that last salvo. More shells falling in on him. 1933, 726. He's already below half health. He's taken a couple hits from other friendlies, but most of the damage has been done by me. Shells falling in, set the second fire on, and the spotting aircraft goes away, and he's going to be burning for a while. Get a high explosive out now on the full health Cleveland, and he's going to take a massive hit here. There we go, 6,500 points of damage, and another fire set. We just cracked 100,000 damage. Pick up a Confederate armor-piercing flying in on the Cleveland. Do a pretty decent amount of damage. Get a high caliber, 3,200 points of damage. Shoot another broadside of high explosive out. And you see how this damage is just piling up so much. Another broadside of high explosive. That New York is cowering in fear behind the island. And he is now less than 10,000 hit points. Another broadside of high explosive out on the Cleveland. He's at 6,400 points of damage, and he is still burning. Another broadside of high explosive on the Cleveland for 2178. More high explosive. I switch back to armor piercing. And when other ships are not targeting you, you can do stuff like this so nicely. Get 2 more fires set on the Cleveland. He is going to die here really shortly. Looking for another salvo of high explosive out on the Cleveland. Unfortunately for me, my friendly Congo back there digs him out. As the 6th enemy ship sunk, I have sank 4 of them. 124,000 damage. And we still got plenty more of this game to do. So I'm now swinging around towards Objective Bravo, trying to get back. Unfortunately, my buddy Puddin up there is going to take a massive hit from the enemy New Mexico right here. Ugh. Oh, boy. That was a monster hit that he took. Yep, right there. There it is. Sorry. I alluded to it just a little bit too much. My bad. Dive bombers are going in on the enemy New York. Looking for a cheeky shot over the island. Shells are going in on the target. Maybe they'll get there. Maybe they won't. Who knows? He gets dive bomb, gets set on fire. And he is dead. Enemy New York taken care of. We have a 6-5 ship lead and have a points lead of 596 to 455. However, Objective Bravo is about to get taken by the enemy. And our friendly New York up there takes 2 torpedoes, and he gets taken care of. The enemy New Mexico shoots at me at this time. So now I'm trying to swing my ship back to starboard. Unfortunately, this horrific turning circle just won't allow it. I end up taking only 1 shell, thankfully, but it's over 5,000 damage taken. Fire set on the New Mexico. He's going to let that burn for a little bit. I get a pretty decent hit on the enemy kamikaze, and at this point, I'm just trying to take him down before he gets into his smoke. More shots out. Get a pretty good salvo, 2,500 points of damage. Looking for more shots on the kamikaze. 2 shells look pretty good. He just goes into the smoke. And I do indeed hit him with 2 more, up to 133,000. Take a blind shot into the smoke, and now I'm turning back away. Certainly don't want to get shot at by both the New Mexico and the Alba. Take a couple shells from him for about 1,000 damage. Swinging my guns into play on the New Mexico. The scores are now 547 to 561. The enemy team does have a lead. New Mexico has let his fire burn for a while. More shots out. Shells falling in. Decent amount of damage. Another fire set. All right. Full broadside out on the New Mexico. He will be using his damage control here shortly. I'm waiting to see what he's going to do, what he's going to shoot at. Set another fire on him. He's now down to about 30,000 hit points. Shells flying on the target, and he decides to shoot at my other friendly cruiser behind me. So I decided at this point, if I'm going to make a turn, I better do it right now. His damage control kicks in, and he puts out both of the fires. But again, it only lasts for 20 seconds, so it's just a matter of time when I'm able to set him on fire, or 2 or 3 times yet again. More shells flying in on the target. I aim just slightly too far to the right, yet I still manage to get a fire. The fire does get put out by the damage control, but now he is definitely going to have run out of time using it. Shells falling in. There we go. 2 fires set, 726 damage. Now that New Mexico is going to continue to burn ferociously up to 150,000 damage. Looking for that cheeky third fire. Unfortunately, don't get it. He shoots his 2 forward guns at me. I continue to turn in. Am I going to be able to get out of the way? I just bounced a shell. Holy crap. I was not expecting that. I'll tell you that much. Switching now to armor piercing because he's on fire in a couple places, and being able to stack armor piercing damage with fire is just the death knell for battleships. Shells falling in, very solid hits there, 4,300 points of damage. He just goes below 10,000 health. Looking for more shots. Get a high explosive salvo out, take a couple hits from the Alba, take about 4,000 damage. The New Mexico continues to burn, looking for a cheeky shot over the island, armor piercing wise at the Alba. Shots going in. And I bounced more shells in the Shchors. I don't even know what to say right now. This armor is freaking horrific. Oh well. New Mexico taken care of. Arsonist picked up. Kraken taken care of. We're now up to 5 kills and 178,000 damage. The enemy has since then taken out all the objectives. Unfortunately, I shoot blindly at that enemy destroyer, and I don't have the guns ready to go on the enemy kamikaze, who just popped a smoke 4.2 kilometers away. Oh, man, and that's going to come back to bite me in the butt here rather shortly. But unfortunately, I have to get on the cap. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this thing's maneuverability is absolutely garbage. But I have to get on the cap here. This is domination. We have to start pulling the points back other than getting kills. We still are relatively close in terms of score on the enemy team. However, we lose the friendly ship over Objective Alpha, and now we're down by almost, or over 200 points, excuse me. About halfway capturing the objective, up to 178,000 damage. Confederate high caliber Kraken and Arsonist, 15 fire set and 9 citadels. I decided to get rid of all of the high explosive because I want to ensure the kill is going to be taken care of on the Alba. And then right after this, I make the absolute noob mistake. Citadel, 6th ship destroyed, looking for a shot on the kamikaze, and for some reason, I decided to turn broadside to smoke. And this thing's maneuverability, yeah, it's not going to get out of the way. Torpedo spotted. I do end up capturing the base. I hit the kamikaze, put him on fire, but the other kamikaze, launches his torpedoes in the smoke, take it right underneath the chin. My last gasp of shells falls just to the port side of the kamikaze. I get taken care of, and we eventually lose this game. What a heartbreaker here in the Shchors. Alrighty, guys, going to take a look here quickly at the detailed reports. 395,000 credits earned for Puddin's game and almost 9,000 total XP. Confederate Kraken and a high caliber. 104,000 damage done. 176 target hits. 9 planes shot down. 5 ships destroyed. And a healthy 17 fires set. Taking a look at the team score, 2,299 base XP. That is a very healthy number and easily best on both of the teams. Taking a look at mine now, 516,000 credits earned, almost 5,000 total XP. I get a Witherer, Confederate, Kraken, and a high caliber. Unfortunately, it ends in defeat. 183,000 damage done, top 10 on the North American server in a game on the Shchors. 289 target hits, 2 planes shot down, 6 ships destroyed, half of the enemy fleet, 10 glorious citadels, 16 awesome fires, 1 base cap. Taking a look now at the team score, 2,181 base XP earned. Another fantastic game. And unfortunately, if that was a win, oh, that would have been one heck of a game. Best on both the winning and the losing teams. So right there you saw 2 good games in the Shchors. Puddin's game being a little bit more aggressive and getting in there a lot more often than me. In my game, utilizing armor piercing even more so, staying at range against the enemy New York, and then unfortunately having to close the distance with the enemy ships. And I got put into a very bad position where even a tier 5 destroyer is able to take me out at its own will. I hope you guys enjoyed this double tap. Please leave your comments And please like the video and subscribe to our channel. We're very glad that you guys have continued to give us some pretty good support. 214 subscribers now. Very happy about that. Hope you guys enjoyed these two games. Sneaky Snake for BIA World of Warships signing off.